Hey everybody, welcome to Crack Pack Tuesday, number 66 on the Mana League. I'm John as always, and we've got ourselves another pack of Eldritch Moon. We're going to crack this open, see what's in it, and see what we would take. Pack one, pick one, if this was a draft. Hopefully everybody enjoyed their first week of Eldritch Moon out in stores. I know I did. Up first, we've got ourselves a Drag Under, very solid card. 2 and a blue for a sorcery. Return target creature to its owner's hand. Draw a card. I am loving Drag Under. I love tempo. Yeah, of course I wish it was instant speed, but it draws a card. It draws a card. Drag Under is really good. I definitely consider it first pickable. Not against bombs, not against premium removal, but in some packs, I think it will be first pickable. Up next, we have Borrowed Grace. Borrowed Grace is 2 and a white for an instant. Escalate 1 and a white. Choose one or both. Creatures you control get +2/+0 until end of turn. Creatures you control get +0/+2 until end of turn. I think Borrowed Grace is definitely solid in a deck that wants to be aggressive. It's basically a Trumpet Blast in white, and there are a number of white aggressive decks that are going to be out there. White-green, white-red, even white-black could probably pull it off. Even white-blue flyers might want this just to get a Trumpet Blast in the air. I think Borrowed Grace is totally fine. It is not, however, a first pick in any way, shape, or form. It's way more mid-pack. Up next, we have Otherworldly Outburst. Otherworldly Outburst is a single red mana for an instant. Target creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. When that creature dies this turn, put a 3/2 colorless Eldrazi horror creature token onto the battlefield. I don't like this card at all. I think it's very similar to Skin Invasion. I think it's very similar to the whole, spend mana on this and hope that it dies and then get a relatively middling creature out of it. I don't view this as being worth a card. There are ways that it can backfire and you basically waste a mana for no reason. I don't see a point. I would rather just play a 3-mana 3/2 than play this in a deck. I don't like it. I'm not going to play it. I haven't played it yet, and I'm certainly never first picking it. Up next, we have Crossroads Consecrator. Crossroads Consecrator is a single green mana for a creature human cleric. It's a 1/2. Pay green, tap, target attacking human gets +1/+1 until end of turn. This is definitely good, but it's also definitely a far cry from Anointer of Champions. You have to pay mana for it. It only hits humans. It is still decent, but I don't think it's ever first pickable. It's more mid-pack. Up next, we have Wailing Ghoul. Wailing Ghoul is 1 and a black for a creature zombie. It's a 1/3. When Wailing Ghoul enters the battlefield, put the top 2 cards of your graveyard or of your library into your graveyard. This is not Crow of Dark Tidings. Crow of Dark Tidings enables Delirium by milling 2, just like this. But it's a 2/1 flyer. This is a 1/3 ground guy. Maybe if you're like a super late game kind of deck and you want to get Delirium and you also want to block really, really well, sure. But you can get this card whenever you want. You should be even seeing this last pick now and then. So Wailing Ghoul totally out on it. Won't even play it that often. Up next, we have Convolute. Convolute is 2 and a blue for an instant. Counter target spell, unless its owner or unless its controller pays 4 generic mana. Totally fine counter spell. Obviously, really only fits in the blue-black control deck or in any sort of blue late game deck that is going to be doing a lot of draw go. If you are not that deck, if you're blue-white spirits, don't play this card. If you're blue anything that's going to be attacking before turn 6, don't play this card. It's just not going to be something that should be in your deck. But if you are one of those late game decks, it is a totally fine counterspell. It obviously gets much worse late in the game, but I don't think this format's going to be quite as long as some other ones. I think it might be a little bit slower, but I don't think it's going to be like a turn 12 or turn 13 format where Convolute would fall off really hard. Not first pickable, though. Up next, we have Make Mischief. Make Mischief is 2 and a red for a sorcery. Why, oh why is it a sorcery? Make Mischief deals 1 damage to target creature or player. Put a 1/1 red devil creature token onto the battlefield. It has, when this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to target creature or player. This is just way too slow. You get to do 1 damage, and then your opponent knows that devil's there, so they're gonna take the 1 damage. They're not gonna chump block it, or they're gonna do whatever. They're just... You're not gonna get what you want to have happen out of this card. And it's almost entirely because it's at sorcery speed. I don't think you should ever really be picking this card. I don't think you should ever really be playing this card. Do not like it. Totally out on it. Up next, we have Faithbearer Paladin. Faithbearer Paladin is 4 and a white for a creature human knight. It's a 3/4. It's got lifelink. And that's all it's got. I think it's a totally fine filler card. I don't think you would ever highly pick this. I know some people had some good, stories with it at the pre-release, and I think in sealed, a 5 mana 3/4 is fine. I think in draft, you're gonna kind of open yourself up to getting run over if you're playing a number of these guys. The first one is probably fine, but I don't know if I'd ever go over that. It is 5 mana. 5 mana is a lot. I don't think I would ever first pick it, and I'm not going to be going out of my way to get them. I think if you want one, you should be able to get them once people start over-picking them. And yeah, just be careful. Make sure that your deck can do 5 drops. A lot of white decks, a lot of white human decks aren't necessarily going to be doing 5 drops all that often, not in draft. So Faithbearer Paladin, not first pickable, I don't think. Up next, we have Fury Blade Vampire, our first uncommon. 1 and a red for a creature vampire berserker, and into 1/2. It has trample at the beginning of combat on your turn. You may discard a card. If you do, Fury Blade Vampire gets +3/+0 until end of turn. I don't super like this. It's madness enabling, sure, but it's a 1/2 a lot of the times, which means it does absolutely stone nothing. You have to discard to make this even serviceable as a creature. It doesn't get first strike or anything, so it still dies to everything else. I'm not super sold on Fury Blade Vampire. I'll keep an eye on it, but I think the fact that it is going to be a 1/2 a decent number of the time is going to keep this really out. I don't think it's first pickable. Not sure if it's playable. Next up, we have Foul Emissary. Foul Emissary is 2 and a green for a creature human horror. It's a 1/1, and it's got some text on it. Rather than read all of that text out, basically, when you cast it, you can look at the top 4 cards of your library, and then you can put a creature card from among them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom in any order. It also has, when you sacrifice Foul Emissary while casting a spell with a merge, put a 3/2 Eldrazi horror creature token onto the battlefield. This guy's decent. This guy's surprisingly decent. It's a 1/1 for 3, which really sucks. But that filtering method is fine, as long as you're a creature-heavy deck. I'm talking 16 and up. If you are, you can probably play this guy even if you have no emerge. It's going to be pretty 23rd cardish, but you can play it. If you do have emerge, this thing gets a lot better. If you are blue-green emerge, you want to play this pretty readily. I don't, however, think you want to first pick this. I think you maybe want to first pick an emerge creature, get past this and take it. And I think you'll be very happy to see it in pack 2 if you're already heading towards emerge. But I don't think it's a first pick, so I'm not going to keep it in frame. Our last uncommon is Geist of the Archives. Geist of the Archives is 2 and a blue for a creature spirit. It's an 0/4. It has defender. At the beginning of your upkeep, scry 1. This card is amazing. 0/4 for 3. It's going to block everything for turns and turns and turns. It doesn't fly. It is a spirit, but look at it. It's chained down. It doesn't fly. But scrying every turn is amazing. Scryfish from Theros, Sigiled Starfish, was fantastic. Thassa, even if you never enabled her and if you never used her ability, was amazing because she was this card that scryed every turn for the same cost. But she couldn't block unless she was online, and if she was online, you were doing different things than blocking. Geist of the Archives just seems absolutely amazing and absolutely a first pick. Our rare is Rich Sanitarium, a terrible card, and I think possibly my 3rd copy of this already. It's a land. It's a legendary land. Tap, add colors to your mana pool. Don't want it. Pay 2, tap. Each player draws a card, then discards a card. Each player loots. That's just terrible. Why do you want to give your opponent a loot and get a loot yourself? That's just way too much equity to your opponent. I don't think you should ever play this card. I see no reason to play this card. I don't care if you're madness. I don't care if you're enabling madness. This card just is bad. It should be pretty late into the pool or into the picks. We have our flip card. Curious Homunculus, 1 and a blue for a creature Homunculus. It's a 1/1. Tap, add colorless to your mana pool. Use this mana to only cast an instant or sorcery spell. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 3 or more instant and or sorcery cards in your graveyard, transform Curious Homunculus into Voracious Reader. Voracious Reader is a creature Eldrazi Homunculus. It has prowess, and instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Yeah, Curious Homunculus is totally good in the blue-red spells deck and absolutely nowhere else. You should never, ever be playing this card if you are not blue-red spells. There is no reason. Absolutely no reason to ever play it. If you're in blue-red spells, you should be seeing this very, very, very late into the packs. So never waste a first pick on this. Never waste one of your first 6 or 7 picks on this. Make sure that you have taken everything you can before you take this card. And then you'll be happy to have it. But it should be a very, very late pick. Now, we do have one more card. We have a mythic flip card. We have Gisela, the Broken Blade. Gisela the Broken Blade is 2 white for a legendary creature, Angel Horror at Mythic. She's a 4/3. She has flying. She has first strike. She has lifelink. She also says at the beginning of your end step, if you both own and control Gisela the Broken Blade and Bruna the Fading Light, exile them, then return them to the battlefield melded. I'm paraphrasing because it's a little bit outside of my sightline. As Brizella, Voice of Nightmares. And of course, she flips over and becomes half of Brizella, Voice of Nightmares. The flip doesn't matter. The odds of somebody opening Bruna at the table and not taking it is massively low. Massively low. Bruna's good enough to first pick. The odds of you actually getting this in draft is probably lower than it was of you getting it in sealed. So don't expect ever Transformer. So really, she's a 4/3. Flying first strike lifelink for 4, which is already just absolutely stone amazing. You should be snap picking this. You should barely be looking at the rest of the pack. You should be checking to see if there's a foil Gisela or a foil Tameo or something. But yeah, Gisela is just a snap first pick. She's absolutely incredible. Just a beater. If you cast her and your opponent doesn't have an answer immediately, you should just be winning that game. So we have 3 cards, but there's no real discussion here. We're taking Gisela. If Gisela wasn't here, I'd be taking the Geist, but Gisela is the obvious first pick here. Let me know down in the comments below what you would have taken from this pack and why it is Gisela the Broken Blade. You can also use the poll up in the top right-hand corner. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can find me on Twitter at TheManaLeak. That's L-E-E-K, like the vegetable, not the card. You can also find me at Facebook.com/TheManaLeak and Twitch.tv/TheManaLeak. You've already found me here on YouTube. You've got that comment section down below. Please make use of it. You've got that thumbs up icon if you like my content, and if you want to see more, and if you haven't already, click that subscribe button. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, see you all next time.